I'm ready. ZombieGrub is ready. I think we can go, 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 go. Yep. Lambo is very eager. When I asked Lambo if he wanted to play this Friday, he said like, yeah, I'd love to play, but I have to check if there is a birthday party. He's like, there is a birthday party. He's like, what time? I was like, most of the time it should start around 9. He's like, okay, 9 is fine. He's like, but the last time you made me play at like 11. I was like, yeah, that was when we used to start at 8, and I realized that wasn't optimal. He's like, okay, now as long as it starts at 9, I'll be fine. I was like, yeah, but don't play if you're in a rush. He's like, no, like, not a rush. And then he was already molding in the chat earlier that the PvT took almost an hour and a half. And then obviously Chem staying in one game a bit longer than he wished. But in the end, I think he's in very good spirits tonight. And he is ready to play some video games. It's main event time, ZombieGrub.
Hell yeah, let's get into it. I guess I got the job of introducing the top right player. Starting off on altitude in the top right. It is the Shopify Rebellion player, Lambo.
And in the bottom left side, we're going to take a look at the main base of the man who really made some serious progress over the last 9 months. He used to be an alright guy, a top 8, top 10 guy in Europe, but over the last 9 months he's done such a great job for himself, constantly beating guys that we consider the top 8 of Europe. He has gotten the best of Gabe in a lot of the TVTs. He's got some wins over Showtime. He's got some wins over the Zergis as well, of Elaser, and his opponent in this series. This is our Polish Terran, representing Storm Gaming. It's Spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of a talk of the town for a little bit. If you were obviously a common viewer of, for instance, Roddy streams or any of the Open Cup commentators, I think we were all just talking so much about how impressive Spirit had become. You know, he was always good. He always had his strengths, and then he would improve on them. He would experiment a little bit, but obviously like collecting all of it together and actually being a next level player, that's going to take some time. And then he finally did, it felt like. And I still think that he is definitely a step above what he used to be. It's kind of great looking at his Ligalak score, because I wondered if it was reflected in his overall score, which I'm sure many people don't really look at. I mean, I don't usually, but if you go to his main page and you look at that graph and how like it goes up and down, he had a kind of like a poor point around the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, and that happens, but then it just like kind of shoots up a little bit. And I really feel like that shoot up is even more impressive than it actually looks like. If it could be even higher, if data didn't do the thing, I would be like, yeah, that makes sense, because it really has impressed in the last 6 months. And it sometimes does take that little bit of kind of a downturn before everything just clicks in your head, and then boom, you know, you're rocking it away. And it feels like it's happened for Spirit, so I'm very excited for him. And on the other hand, for Lambo, as I said, I had a lot of opinions about this. So we see an Overlord potentially die. Lambo constantly proves me wrong. The problem is that every time I'm like, no, Lambo, he's got this, man. He's playing amazing. He's awesome. It's when he has a little bit of a downturn. And as soon as I'm like, I don't know, he's kind of been struggling, he's like, F-U-Z-G, and he like, you know, does amazingly at DreamHack. So I don't actually quite know where to place Lambo, honestly, right now. I just hope that he's playing like he did at DreamHack.
Even Ben bantering with you a little bit after he got the best of Bunny, and you said like, I think it's going to be a rather one-sided affair. Yeah, Lambo is a special character, and he's hard to keep track of as well, because an online Lambo is not always the same as an offline Lambo. And especially a Lambo that's very passionate and motivated and works towards a specific event, he can be incredibly dangerous. But if you then watch him on the Monday night in the quarterfinals against one of the 27 random Protosses we have in Europe, he can look a bit underwhelming, you know, but that's just kind of the guy that he is. But he can definitely peak when it matters the most. And he did tell me, he's like, no, I wouldn't accept any invitation if I won't do my absolute best. He's like, so don't worry, I'm going to try. And I think we're going to see a good Lambo tonight. And whenever I feel like we're going to see a good Lambo, I do still always lean a little bit towards him, because I'm a bit of a fan. I think he's always been very great. Sometimes even got a bit unlucky. You know, he's never had that big dub. And I don't know if you heard this story, but I recently had a very specific, realistic dream of Lambo winning Homestory Cup 23.
Oh, yeah.
It was actually really awesome. We all had a great time, and I tweeted about it. He saw it. He's like, all right, let's make it happen then. So I think he's in good spirits. I think he's playing a lot at the moment, and I'm sure he's going to do his best basically next weekend for Homestory Cup, and obviously tonight against Spirit.
Yeah. Just a quick, gloss over all the builds here. Spirit going into a third CC, kind of very basic 1-1-1, Liberator harassment with Stim on the way, and Lambo going into basic Zerg macro. But when I think about these two players and some of the best games they've played in this matchup, I actually think really highly of Lambo's aggression, which is kind of weird because I think overall you ask me like, what's Lambo, macro or aggressive, you know? And I would say macro. But it's not that he all-ins, it's not that he's a roach player, it's not that he copies Stark, it's just that he gets really, like, a lot of lane baneling, sets up perfect surrounds, and then delivers, pulls a trigger, and then just, like, momentum, momentum, momentum. That's my favorite games of Lambo. For Spirit, I think a lot of people will think about his win versus Raynor, a few months ago, actually, at this point. But that he played a very spectacular mid and late game against the guy. So I don't know if we're going to have that dynamic here, where Lambo is just very aggressive and, just trying to win the game, let's say prior to 15 minutes, where Spirit finds a little more confidence after 15 minutes, but we might see it on some of the other maps. I don't know about altitude. But right now, setting up for that map again.
Liberator finding a couple of drones in the main base as Lambo's is busy dealing with these queens. Liberator has switched targets into the natural. Sporecrawler will kill it, but 7 drones for a single Liberator. I do think that's a little more than Spirit is supposed to get there. Lambo's probably not going to be ultra happy with that. Good news for Lambo though is that altitude is obviously such a massive map that if this is Babylon, we start shaking in our boots and we're like, oh no, like, is it going to be over? Is the first push going to end it? I feel like no matter how good your early game is on a map like altitude, it's hard to just end it with the next push.
Yeah, that's very true. So Lambo can kind of rest a bit easier thanks to that, but I was talking about Spirit's late game. Just to be clear, he's also really upped his sharpness, like his killer instinct. There are times where absolutely he'd get ahead, but then either the final execution, the executing blow wouldn't really be it, so he'd kind of falter there, or he wouldn't go for the blow at all, right? Passiveness was a big problem with his earlier career, but he's definitely improved on that. I brought up Lambo's good surrounds earlier on. I wasn't talking about versus Hellions. It is displayed right there. Nice catch.
Yep, that's an excellent catch because these Hellions can become so annoying if an armory finishes up and they morph into Hellbats. And that's really something that I think Lambo displayed time and time again recently at the ESL Masters Summer Championship. Some of these engagements against Bunny, they were perfectly fun. Like, if that was Cerro, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. We know that Cerro has engagements like that over and over again, but Lambo really displayed just some excellent ZBT understanding, knowing when to go for it. And if he needs to buy those 10, 15, 20 extra seconds for upgrades to finish up, he's often an absolute master in making that happen as well. With a little bit of a backstab, battle some reinforcements, just to keep the Terran distracted. And then once he's ready, once those upgrades kick in, and keep an eye on those 1 more upgrades in the top side, then he just pulls the trigger immediately. And it's honestly impressive that he can set himself up for that time and time again.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Keeping Spirit at bay. Spirit's trying to make those inches move forward, a little bit more confident for the next wave that goes out in the map, but it's not really a lot of leeway. Lambo quick to replacing the creep spread, quick to, sizing up how he's going to engage, so he's ready to actually go for it, provided his 1-1 finishes. 10 seconds, I think it will. And he is trying to move over into not just Hydralisk, but also over into that Hive tech. So a lot of resources are invested there. There's that surround. Spirit actually getting a little bit of a forewarning thanks to some of those units. And he's going to siege up his tanks in a rather proper position and, yeah, play very carefully with moving to that high ground.
We do have a little bit of a Liberator sieging up as well, I believe, at the 12 o'clock base, but I do think this Terran army is very stuck. Now, there are a few Widowmines. There are indeed a couple of Hellbats left over. That first Widowmine shot is not bad. The Marine's doing an alrighty job, but I think on creep, Lambo should always be fine, as he finds a couple of very good connections towards the end. This was indeed a Liberator that got a few drones, but I think well done by Lambo in the end, even though he's sending the drones back a little bit too early here. That's always unfortunate when that happens. Good cleanup by Lambo, but I'm sure that he wished for everything to go a little bit smoother. He needs to be very careful with that Widowmine. Actually not going to get it in the end. That's also very annoying for him.
I think you're right. I think he wanted every portion of that to be just a little bit smoother, including the defense of the Liberator. So overall, he might be quite disappointed with that. Another Widowmine pops off, and Spirit's attack on the right side now looking quite deadly, eyeing the 5th base, and I think it is within his grasp, absolutely. Now he can just pick up and even head into the main base, cause further chaos. Hey, yes, no, he didn't have to. He actually stuck his ground. He was right about it.
Sniped a few banelings there towards the end as well. Lambo now wondering, like, should I keep fighting? Do I just wait until he steps on creep? Or do I just kind of turtle even deeper defensively and just wait for that hive to kick in? But Spirit is playing a beautiful game. He's indeed doing that thing that you mentioned, where he's just a bit more aggressive. Because in the past, we've seen Spirit have a good start. Like, we're talking about Spirit from a year ago. And it's like, okay, you got a base. And now he drops 2 sensor towers, 5 missile turrets, and gets 2 more planetary. It's like, well, all the good things we did do now not really mean a whole lot anymore. But if you just keep on attacking, all of it will start adding up. As while this is happening, he's also dropping in the main base. I want to say I love the positioning of the units, but obviously there were a few banelings in the mix to complicate things. But Spirit is playing a beautiful game on obviously a very Zerg favorite map.
And now Lambo is having a tougher time kind of getting the map back under his control. Something I was talking about for the first couple of pushes, always being able to replant creep and not really worried about secondary attacks and setting up preemptively. Now it's the creep spread getting a little push back farther than you would like, especially on the right side, and not being able to kind of preempt the attacks and the drops. Always the last second responses creating more problems.
Yeah, Spirit's still active with just a few Marines, picks them up in a very low HP medevac. As Lambo, I think, feels he needs a desperation move, and that's why we're going to drop the Nidus. This is not one of these late game Nidus networks where we're trying to break the Terran. I really think this is kind of like, I need a comeback mechanic in this game. Maybe I can get a few lurkers on top of the production, and that's going to give me a great fight. And we've definitely seen Zerg players win games they had no business winning because the Nidus did go up in the main. So that's, I guess, a little bit of a saving grace, but it's always kind of the only thing that Lambo really has going for himself. After he loses 11 more drones against 3 Widow Mines, it's kind of going from bad to worse.
Yeah, the supplies maybe don't look that bad, especially if you consider the high-quality lurkers coming in here with some of their upgrades, but the overall pacing and setup for a TDZ is feeling worse and worse for Lambo. He's basically getting crunched here, right? And he's about to get completely squished. So this is the time to stop it, right? And maybe he can, but Spirit now moving over here with most of his army, tanks included, or tank singler, sorry, included, kind of anchoring this push, and he is again eyeing one of these bases to kill.
Oh, the Widowmine shot from downtown gets a few more banelings as well. There is one overseer heading towards the main base. Those Widowmines actually did a whole lot of friendly fire. And maybe that is the one thing that Lambo needs. I'm going to go ahead and take a little look at the first person view of Spirit. Does not know yet about that Nidus network that's going up in the main base. He's just microing ZombieGrub. He still hasn't seen it. This is the first time he sees it. He's a little bit late though. Liberator at least is going to show up. And I don't know how many lurkers can successfully get out. There are a few goals here. They're going to drop snipes immediately. Lurkers will get some shots off, but especially the Liberator is going to make Spirit's life a whole lot easier.
Yeah, unfortunately, Spirit did already have some of those units that are obviously necessary to work against lurkers in your main base. You know, lurkers get in the Sim City, and then Ling sometimes accompany them, and it just gets really complicated real fast. But the response was basically fast enough with ghosts so the snipes could come down, so it wasn't funneling your own bio units into their death, which also means that Spirit could kind of calmly react. It wasn't a panic of move your entire army and allow other avenues of attack to open. But that said, while Spirit cleans things up, Lambo gives himself a little bit of breathing room, tries to take advantage of it. Again, Ghost, pretty good unit.
So many snipes for Terran with only 4 ghosts on the map. Feels like he's got way more. Now we've got a whole bunch of them in production. There's a couple of links with +1 melee and adrenal glands. We'll get on top of this planetary. The fact that they don't have +2 melee or +3 definitely hurts. And I want to say he's going to get it. I think he will get it. But thank the Lord there's not 2 SCVs around, because 2 SCVs would have probably been able to save that planetary. Lambo's definitely in a very uncomfortable spot. He's nowhere near rich enough. He's not as rich as he would like to be, as we have a few more Widow Mines getting unloaded in the top side of the map. And if there's one thing that lurkers don't want to do, it's dealing with Widow Mine throw.
No, that's not what they're designed for. They also don't really want to be purely on defense against the the ghosts. Like, obviously it's a bit more of a complicated dynamic than that, but when the Terran has such control over the map and they're positioning their ghosts before the lurkers are there, it's like running into the snipes can be extremely dangerous. It's still going to take time for Spirit to actually take out this many lurkers, but when he decides to, if he can actually go for it, that's going to be Lambo's defense all gone, right? So I'm actually looking at these lurkers all alone. I'm a little scared, but Spirit's not going to go for it.
Spirit's going to go for a big old drop in the main base with 4 medevacs. The lurker counter the ZombieGrub is honestly terrifying. It's 18. So if Spirit makes one boo-boo with his ghost, this can still get close, even though it shouldn't get close. Lambo says, alright, you take my main, I'm going to go ahead and try to take the third, and this is where obviously craziness can happen with lurkers. But Spirit just says, alright, as long as you don't get on top of my production, I should be fine, as he's also dropping in the top left side. Drones are going to fall, another hatchery will fall, and it does not feel that Spirit has made any of those mistakes, as another big Widowmine shot goes down.
He's actually gotten kind of fortunate with some of these Widow Mines, not gonna lie, but absolutely trying to do some crisis management at this point, making sure at the very least his production stays intact. His production's intact, he can still build Ghosts and Liberators. There's not much that Lambo can do to break into the main base. Meanwhile, yes, he cleans up his side of the map, but obviously a Zerg player on 2 bases is not a good Zerg player. It's all about the army versus army. A similar situation today for the Triple B, man. We got so many pseudo base trades, just armies, you know, going for the last attempt to win the game. It happened in PvT earlier, now it's happening in TVZ.
Liberator is going to try to back up these Widow Mines that are fired non-stop. Obviously, Spirit lost a lot of SCVs as well, but that's okay because he's still got a whole bunch of orbitals. And technically, he's got the superior defensive unit. We've got 13 Ghosts, 2 Liberators, and all that Lambo has is 11 Lurkers and 20 Hydras. Lambo probably feels that if it's ever going to happen, it needs to happen right here and right now. Only had a couple Vipers, right? Like, imagine if you have 2 or 3 Vipers here, you're like, maybe that's possible. But I think without Vipers, we just can't do it.
No, I think you're right. Vipers would have been amazing. Abduct the Liberators, Blinding Cloud that Planetary, and you really got something going. I mean, they could even get down to, you know, abducting Ghosts sometimes to be helpful, but now we're past that point. Okay, that's an awfully clumped up Terran army. That was a way to do it.
Was hold position as well, or he just didn't have high ground vision, I guess. But that actually could have been a 200 IQ big brain move if Lambo would have left 6 or 7 lurkers at the bottom of that ramp. Obviously very risky. At least does get the planetary, and Spirit's economy is now kind of in the dumps as well, as Lambo really is battling for it. This is not a planetary fortress, just an orbital. As we have a few Marines stepping into the natural, more drones will fall. I mean, Spirit has the kind of army to win this game with the 14 goals. He should be winning this game, but Lambo's definitely making him work for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the problem is always, is he going to have a scan available? You know, literally, or rather, is he paying attention too? Yeah. So he did just lose another orbital, but he still has 3, so I think he's okay as far as the actual scanning of them. It's just whether or not he can pay attention to every single position on this map, right? Like a couple of hidden lurkers could do big things here, but I think Spirit's already mitigating the chances of that, you know, one attack happening by just splitting up, right? So at the very least, he'll have some of his army left over.
Well, Lambo's almost about to get eliminated as he loses all of his buildings. This will be it, the final fight of this game. Spirit, his ghost count is just a little too high. A few more snipes go down, and Spirit wins an excellent first game here. An 18-minute game on altitude. And honestly, starting a best of 5 against the Zerg on the current map we have, and you win on altitude, I mean, that's got to give you wings.
And he did it with a bunch of snipes. The tilt factor. I don't know if Lambo actually gets tilted. I know someone in chat does, but that was a very, very fun game. Absolutely fun. Big brain bouts delivering as far as the game quality. I mean, we know that Lambo was basically always on the back foot that entire game, so... You know, his eventual loss does make sense in that context, but he really did a great job almost bringing it back. Yep,
it obviously started off with that first Liberator. Getting 7 drones, that's a few more than it's supposed to. Like 2-3 drones, that stuff can happen, especially if Lambo can guarantee himself the kill on the lip. That was a few too many. And then we had that fight in the top left side where I thought, man, Spirit is just kind of walking himself into a trap. Like, this is a dream scenario for Lambo. He's going to get a great engagement. And Lambo kind of got the cleanup, but it definitely wasn't as convincing and as amazing as I think he would have liked. The Widowmine shots were big, the tanks were able to stay alive for a while, the Marines just stimped forward on top of that ramp and got a whole bunch of Hydras, and Hydras ain't cheap, so to lose that many of them that early on, just wasn't the start that Lambo was looking for.
Yeah, exactly. It just was everything that was, you know, could have gone just a little bit better, like 10%, 15% better, and it would have overall added up to quite a bit, I think, but... Alright, that game is over. Lambo playing, perhaps forced to, but I think he was already making the decision. Playing into that late game, playing into the lurkers. We could have him also change up the styles here as we move on to, well, Gressfon, so maybe not, we'll see. in the top left. I am in the right one. It is for Sidestorm Gaming, the Red Terran Spirit.
Rainer is starting to feel some goosebumps and a shiver going down his spine as he sees Spirit on Grassbond, but it's okay, Rainer. It's okay. It will be fine. It's going to be a good game, mate. In the bottom right side, we are looking at the main base of the man that's representing the Shopify Rebellion. His teammate was down 1-2, but he still brought it back. This is Lambo. One or two things I want to address in the chat very quick, ZG, is that somebody wrote in the chat, doesn't Cyril hate altitude? I never understood why. No. Cyril definitely never said he hates altitude. It's more that he prefers Ancient Cisteran because he just gets way more practice on that map. And he just thinks that altitude is a bit awkward because it's so big that it's hard to really get the creep going the way that he would love to get it going. But all things considered, he still loves altitude. He just prefers Ancient, and he doesn't get to play Altitude very often. And that's why he said he feels a bit uncomfortable on it. But it's, of course, a good Zerg map.
Was only one? I thought there was two.
Oh, yeah, maybe the second thing is that I know that I've ignored a few things tonight, guys, but that's because I'm not solo casting, and I'm having ZombieGrub on the call, so I don't want to have a one-on-one with the chat all night long. I think that'd be very annoying for ZG to listen to, even though I know you're going to tell me it's totally fine, but I just think if I have you here, ZG, I want to talk to you. I don't want to talk with these nerds that I talk to every single week.
No, I appreciate it. Actually, one of the bigger conundrums, because I know a lot of people will come into, I don't know about your chat, but my chat, and because we all cast like the open cups, right? But we all do it individually, and they'll be like, oh, why not do the finals with someone, or why not do the entire cast with someone? And there's a lot of discussion about whether or not casts are just generally better with co-casters. So Wardy's gotten a lot of critique, like, oh, I think you do great, but it would be even better if you had a co-caster. But the other conundrum besides just paying a co-caster or kind of having the same game on two different screens is a bit redundant or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, honestly, even with a 2-minute delay for the open cups, that lack of being able to just like all of a sudden be like, shut up, Roddy, I'm talking to the chat, Like, it actually is kind of a different experience, which some people prefer, some people don't.
Yeah, and it's obviously hard, right? Because everybody does their own thing on the Twitch channel, and, in the end of the day, we love the game, but a lot of us get older, it's a job, so you want to be able to make a living. And if I just sit here, and for 12 weeks, I only talk with a co-caster, and I never talk with chat, then just the support goes down. And even though some people may enjoy the casting more, it's like, well, I'm going to have a harder time to make a living. But I think it's obviously nice to find a balance between it, right? Show some love to the community, interact with the viewers. But, of course, if I have the opportunity to cast a couple Best of Fives with you while you're here in the Netherlands, then I think we should always take that. And I think today has been a very fun day. And looking at chat, I do believe that almost everyone is very happy that you're here. So I think today, job well done.
Yeah, I think you guys have been very welcoming. I really do appreciate that. Sometimes, like, people's Twitch streams, no matter how they try to prune it, can be a little weird, honestly, but you guys have been great. So I'm having a lot of fun, and I hope you guys are too. I think the players are delivering some great games, and we have another setup for a macro game here. Spirit, I believe Command Center first. We kind of talked through all that, but Command Center first, and then a fairly quick third CC as well.
Yeah, Rainer is just in a bad mood right now, guys, because he's afraid of the ultimate late game. It's like, Rainer, tell us, who hurt you, okay? Was it Spirit specifically, or were there other Terrans involved? Like, feel free. We are a welcoming group. If there is something you want to talk about it, we are here. We can be that emotional support group for you, Rainer, if that's what you need. All of them? Okay, all of them hurt him. Well, then it's going to be tough. Where do we start, ZG?
I can't wait until you're driving with Rainer. I don't know what the car setup's going to be. And he's like, now's the time to talk to Roddy. Now's the time to use him as my therapist. And it's just an hour of him complaining.
Yeah, I've had a few car rides with Rainer from the Netherlands to Krefeld. And I have to admit, it wasn't too much about StarCraft. Often a little bit, like we go over a group, we go over a recent tournament. And after that, Rainer is like, hey, can I be the DJ? And I'm like, yeah. And then he puts on 50 Cent in the club. And he's like, I found this sick song. Do you know it? I was like, yes, Rainer. It was literally #1 for like 2 years straight when I was a teenager. And he's like, what about this Eminem song? And it's like, Without Me. I was like, yeah, I know that one too, Rainer. Those are pretty big hits. So that's most of it, how our car trips go. But created some good moments.
I love it. Absolutely love it. All right, so Lambo has been droning up quite a bit after getting a successful scout. I actually kind of find it interesting that Spirit has done back-to-back just kind of... I wish I had a word or like a phrase for this opener, but the stim kind of casual 6 Hellions, like very normal into Liberator. It feels like it's actually one of the most basic Terran builds, but basic doesn't mean like fills up most of the games. You know what I mean? It's just it is basic. It's like a little bit of harassment, good macro, mostly sizing yourself up for the bio, but you still have the chance to do damage. To have it twice in a row actually kind of surprises me. I'm so used to Terrans now massively mixing it up, especially with Gumiho in those finals.
This Hellion count is kind of high, right? With the 8 Hellions.
Oh, it's 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's a little bit higher. Like, obviously, it not necessarily has to be crazy. Very often we just see 8 Hellions and then nothing weird happens, but definitely worth keeping an eye on. I'm sure that Lambo's obviously keeping an eye on that as well, and he's like, alright, wasn't too happy with the start in the previous game, and the last thing you want is a bunch of Hellions YOLOing into a mineral line and getting another 15 drones, because then you are fuming. That Reaper grenade was very funny. Somehow it only bounced back the Reaper.
8 is a little bit different for sure. I just caught it at the wrong moment, but yeah, if the proper defense is there, you're not going to necessarily find it. I mean, if this was Thermal a couple of years ago, if he gets 8, he gets 10, and then he just YOLOs, right? But, for Spirit, 8, and then even being kind of conservative with them, getting a couple creep tumors, and then having perhaps an even more powerful blow when he does move out. Because if you remember, last game, a lot of things happened, but one of the first things was that Lambo destroyed the Hellions. He stopped them from contributing to the first tank push.
Yeah, he got 4 out of 6. He got 4, and then the 2 Hellions later on, even just those 2 Hellions, they were still very useful, as in Hellbats. We've got a Liberator trying to sneak into the back of the Natural or the main base. We'll keep an eye on that Liberator, but obviously this army right here is a lot more important. And that Baneling Nest, ZombieGrub, I want to say it's kind of late, and obviously dealing with this many Hellbats without a Baneling Nest, that's actually going to be very scary.
No, I actually thought you were going to talk about how Centrifugal Hooks isn't done. You know, this is, wow, that's not even done yet. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And the creep spread starting to dissipate, although actually there's one active creep tumor from this area is making it even worse. We know this is a brutal position on Gress spawn. To be in less than ready to defend could be problematic. A big Lings around comes in, but without the Banelings, the Marines will probably stick around for a little bit longer. Okay, actually injured too much. Oh! And a last-second snipe on that one medevac.
That is...
It turned okay.
Yeah, that's once more a 10 out of 10 engagement for Lambo, man, who did such a good job. And again, first you poke on the other side of the map, right? Can we pick up reinforcements? Didn't see any. Can we get some SCVs? Not possible. Let's wait until these 1-1 upgrades are done. And I think he had very nice target firing with the Queens. Honestly, very impressive. But that doesn't mean that he's done yet, as the Marines are still in pretty high numbers. Can Spirit become Clem? Oh, yes, he can. But the link count should be more than high enough, and now so many Queens are falling, and that's obviously a problem as more great target fire goes down. And Spirit has picked off like 5 Queens or 6 Queens already in an 8-minute game.
Yeah, 5 Queens are left over, enough to inject all the hatcheries if they're not busy, but obviously creep spread's an issue, and they are busy. They're still trying to help out with all the drops. It looks like Spirit is pretty much like, I can actually do this right now. I can do this right now. And is cut short just a little bit. Lambo hanging on by a thread, but he is hanging on, and he's now finally taken, I think, a real moment to breathe, get his Banelings up, get his Centrifugal Hooks up too, because he finished the Baneling Nest when there was so much action. So of course he couldn't get around to actually starting that up. It wasn't a resource issue, I think, because he's actually having trouble spending his money, just an attention issue. But again, other problems still exist for Lambo, maybe a bit lacking on the creep spread, and the injects are sorely needed. Needs to spend the money.
Still massive kudos to the way that he defended that, how calm he stayed with tanks shelling away at that hatchery, Queens being under a lot of pressure, just being able to buy that little bit of extra time to get a few more Lings out and says, F it, we're doing it without Banelings. I cannot get access to Banelings, but at least I bought time for the 1-1 upgrades, and honestly thought that was a very good engagement. And I actually think if the Lings were in a slightly better position the second time around, I don't think he had to lose those 2 or 3 extra Queens, or even those Banelings, right, to begin with. But the most important thing for Lambo is that he's still alive. He's got a lot of battle units, 112 army supply. This is almost a little bit unlike Lambo to be on 76 drones, but have this amount of Ling Bane.
Just decided to really go almost all in on Ling Baneling. Obviously 76 drones, 5 bases, and actually his creep to the north is pretty great. But he's just decided to go for it. It might have taken, it seems like light years to let the Bane speed finish, but it is finally done, and he is rolling onto Spirit's side of the map.
153 Zerglings and 46 Banelings. That is so many Banelings, as a wise man once said. One of the tanks is stuck in a medevac. That is not what Spirit needs right now. Here comes the swarm, and Lambo says, we don't need no Hydras. Oh my goodness, this is gonna go so well for Lambo with one of the tanks not sieged up, still stuck. It's Lingbane for days. We still have over 100 Zerglings. After all of this, a lot of SCVs will die, and Lambo is going to be more than pleased, but I don't think he's even done yet.
No, I don't think he is. I think he's actually just going to win right here, right now. And Spirit's probably just shaking his head in disbelief. You know, how did they come to this? How did he witness a only Ling defense to a pretty properly positioned Terran army into a no centrifugal hooks defense? It just, you know, and then it all goes extremely sideways, extremely fast, all in the blink of an eye almost. Now, Spirit's lost this one. He's got to tap out, admit defeat, and get to game 3.
We have a couple of tanks coming in, but yeah, all of these tanks are unsieged. Army supplies are getting a bit closer, but obviously these tanks do not do that well against Lings and Banes. Lambo ties things up, will prevent a 3-0 in the main event. So I got 3 out of 4 ZombieGrub. I think I did all right today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you did fantastic. I kind of am in disbelief for how Lambo was able to do that. He also recovered from like the larva potential issue, and he actually had a big round burst to give him that perfect timing with centrifugal hooks finishing. So the macro didn't even seem to be a problem after losing so many of those queens. And then just, well, to know that he could pull the trigger. I think Spirit was just honestly just not anticipating it.
No.
He was moving over into like a late game, more defensive position for sure, but he wasn't quite like probably mentally prepared to actually be purely on the defense.
No, great call by Lambo, obviously not to bank resources or drop a Hydra then and be like, let's get some Hydras out against the guy with double factory who's spamming siege tanks. Like, nope, just double down on the Ling Bane. 144 Lings, 46 Bane Lings, an insanely big army. Obviously a very committed attack by Lambo, but as you said, Spirit just did not expect that, did not see it coming. One of the tanks was even stuck in the medevac, which obviously is always painful. But even if that tank is perfectly sieged up, I do not believe that he's gonna be fine against almost 200 ground units from the Zerg.
Yeah, it was crazy. 40 supply gap between the two as well when that battle started. So right on top of all of the mispositioned units and on-siege units and all that. Yeah, that was a perfect moment. Any further hesitation would have been crucial extra seconds for Spirit to get prepared and finish up some of the last important units. And, oh, Lambo hit that time.
Alright, I'm chuckling because of what Trigger just wrote in the chat. So people are saying Trigger walks like a chat. And then Trigger wrote in the chat, I'm walking like an idiot because my ass hurts from Padel. We haven't even played Padel yet, guys. Trigger makes it seem like we had the most intense Padel best of 7 Djokovic against Nadal session of all time. The only thing we did is that I brought him to the court and I hit the ball a little bit to show him how the sport works and how it gets played out. And of course I made him walk a little, but this wasn't even an official match. This was the introduction, but I think our Canadian boy is already done. Hopefully he recovers and we can have an actual Padel match one of these days. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, that's what's up, guys. In the bottom right side of Dragon Skills, we are looking at the main base of our German Zerg. Just had this lovely lady stop by in the chat. Thank you, Luf. You're always great to have around. This is the Shopify Rebellion Lambo.
I find it fascinating that he went like directly to his, talk about his butt. Not his legs, but it's good stuff, Trigger.
I mean, he did slide over. Like, he's kind of slipped a little bit. He was overly frenetic. I was like, he's like, hey, Roddy, I haven't played sports in like 15 years. I was like, oh, that's fine. It's very casual. And the first ball that's a bit out of reach, he tries to go full Djokovic and he slides over. I was like, Trigger, what are we doing? Like, chill, mate. Just like learn how to actually hit the ball and we'll be fine. But yeah, sorry to interrupt your introduction.
No, it was my attempt to segue out of that immediately, but I'm just gonna go with the Lamb one. In the top left, it is Spirit.
Storm Gaming Spirit.
Yeah. Oh, it is funny. That's I mean, but it's if you haven't worked out in a while, you haven't done any sports in a while, like everything hurts actually.
No, for sure, but I feel like we didn't play. Like, I'm not kidding.
He went hard, man.
No, we didn't play. This was an introduction. This was I'm going to explain the rules to you, but oh no, come on. Now he's bragging. Okay, I have to admit he did pick it up rather quickly. I gotta say, at first I was like, oh, it's gonna be a disaster, but after like 10 minutes, Trigger actually started hitting the ball and he made a few points and then he started bragging. And then I was like, okay, let's be serious. And then he hit like a magical shot, you know, probably hit the ball wrong. Somehow still scored a point on me. And I was like, all right, that's it. And then I started serving. And then Trigger didn't hit a ball anymore for a little bit. Ooh, roach wine, by the way. All right, enough about Padel, guys. We'll post the videos and the pictures later. Don't worry, it's coming. Keep an eye on the Basilisk Discord. Talk to me about this roach wine, ZombieGrub.
Yeah, we're gonna have some Lambo cheese. I mean, I love it. I love when the players kind of play out a best of 5, not just the same thing over and over again. Which I was kind of mentioning that Spirit, again, not the exact same build, but just a little bit of that sameness, the 3cc, Hellions, and Liberator. But he's also really changing it up. He's gonna go for a proxy starport. Now, I'm not sure that I love that this is the change up at this particular time. As far as the change ups go, I think I like it for Lambo, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
this is hard. Yeah, this is just one of these scenarios. One of them is gonna deal some damage, and the other one is gonna deal all the damage. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it really just comes down to who strikes first. It does kind of feel to me that maybe these Hellions will strike first, but this is really awkward because Spirit is like, all right, I'm just gonna make it seem like I'm playing a normal game, and then I'm going to move my Hellions because I want to hide my Hellions. But while he's hiding the Hellions, he's not going to see the roaches run to the other side of the map. Did he catch a glimpse of it there, ZombieGrub? I'm not sure.
I think so, yeah. I believe he did. A bunker is on the way, and he's now panicking, trying to figure out what to do. Factory's going to build a, Cyclone or a tank initially, and then obviously build a Marines if you can. Yeah, Cyclone with the mobility. So I guess wait a little while to pull the SCVs, or maybe not.
Right.
I mean, just throw them into the grinder.
Quick guessing game. How many drones are the Hellions going to get?
15.
15 again. That's your magical number. I'm gonna go with 12 actually.
I thought I went with 20 last time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I was like, wait. If that was 15, it would have been perfect. That's something. Anyways, no, it's 8 so far as Lambo does use his queen to self defend, and hopefully, well, I was going to say they get body block, but obviously the medevac is there, so more damage will be coming eventually. But on the other side of the map, the roaches have busted through. Bunker's done. Cyclone is out, and it's now just a question of who deals more economic damage.
It's 11 drones so far, but the Cyclone died. That's the one unit that was not allowed to die, ZombieGrub. I didn't look at it, and the bunker falls as well. So I think I'm going to be able to answer your question. It should be Lambo, as this Karosaba has a lot. Oh, nice mineral. Nice. Oh my goodness. I know SCVs beat Stalkers, because that is what Big Gabriel tells me every single Monday. And I want to give a shout out to you, by the way. It's 15 drones exactly. Lambo types out. We know that SCVs beat Stalkers, but apparently they beat Roaches and Ravages as well.
Damn, that was like a roller coaster that gave me whiplash, man. That was twists and turns every which way. I was like, nah, I mean, like, I think it'll be okay. Like, it'll just be who does more damage. But then there'll be like this weird macro game where they're both hobbling along, and this Cyclone dies, and I'm like, oh shit, the Terran's screwed.
Yeah.
And then some really fantastic SEV micro. I mean, not usually a supreme highlight, but those were perfect.
I don't know, that was the highlight. Like, there's no other way to put it. If that's the highlight, that's the highlight, right? The Drilly Boys, as Pig would call them. That's actually insane. Like, one of my favorite things is when Gabe has his speech on how Marines beat probes, but SCVs beat Stalkers, and that's why you shouldn't base trade as a Protoss. But apparently they do pretty good against Roaches and Ravages as well. I really thought that this Karosaba was going to connect with like 7 SCVs, and we're going to be like, oh my god, but no, that was just 10 out of 10 SCV play.
Yeah, it was. That was fantastic. I guess it also just helps that the roaches were already a little farther apart, you know? So it wasn't like you SCV pulled and then, I don't know, kind of like got a weird surround of like multiple units. It was like each individual unit. It was just, it doesn't seem like it was supposed to go that way. You like look at it and you're like, that's not how it's going to go. And then it goes that way and you think about it more and you're like, oh no, I could probably do that too. And then you try it and of course it goes like a disaster. So kind of like a weird magic moment in StarCraft, but I love it. And those kind of wondering about Lambo's tap out, he was definitely going to lose the game from there. He was like 7 workers behind 2 base.
He lost 15 drones.
yeah. Like effectively 2 base. Like, hey, just the Terran's going to like scale better, I think, as the time goes on.
Yep, that's where orbitals really come in great and make all the difference. All right, that means we're going to go ahead and hop into game 4 of the main event of the Basilisk Big Brain Bouts number 31. I'm just going to say it one more time, guys. Exclamation mark Basilisk in the chat. You guys can show them some love. This doesn't cost you anything. I'm not asking you to give me your $5 a month. Just show some love to Basilisk on either YouTube or Discord or obviously the Twitter as well. Because what they do is not just great for Cyril, Raynor, Trigger, and myself. They really put up an awesome prize pool every single Friday that pro gamers can participate in. It's 31 weeks in a, well, almost in a row. We had a couple events that broke up the streak, but 31 times already. Basilisk put up $500 for the StarCraft 2 nerds, and then of course we had our special anniversary edition as well, where StarCraft, or the original StarCraft, was out for 25 years. And Basilisk said, "That's pretty awesome. Shall we run a $2,500 tournament?" And obviously everyone said yes, and even Yona played. So show some love to Basilisk, because they really do make a big difference, I think, right now in the StarCraft 2 scene. Bottom left side of Royal Blood, we are looking at the main base of the man that's representing System Gaming, obviously a great organization as well, that has done a tremendous amount of good work for StarCraft. This is the Polish Terran Spirit.
And continuing the love to all of the amazing members of the community, we do have Shopify Rebellion, some real kick-ass people, having this lovely team with this amazing person on it. It is Lambo.
Yep. Obviously, Shopify did some fantastic things as well, supporting the EPT, supporting great players like Lambo, Harston, Beyond, Scarlet, and in a weird way, ZombieGrub, TLO is a little bit responsible for all the greatness that Basilisk has brought to the scene, because the lovely folks over at Basilisk knew Shopify from Valorant. They reached out to TLO and they said, "Hey, this StarCraft game looks pretty awesome. Do you have someone that we can talk to?" And TLO is like, "Well, yeah, I'm kind of the guy, but I'm very busy. But there is a nerd in the Netherlands who spends way too much time on StarCraft. You guys should talk with him." And that's kind of how it all got rolling. So perhaps without Shopify, there wouldn't be a Basilisk that does all these great things in StarCraft.
It's amazing, yeah. I could also gush about their role in Valorant, but we'll save it because, not just because this isn't Valorant, but because also Lambo is improving on the cheese. And what was wrong in the last game? It wasn't fast enough. So the Lings are going to go for some basically distraction. They find 2 Marines, which isn't the most ideal situation as far as their lives, but what's less ideal is that it was also a Reaper. So the Reaper gets in, does that scouting, knows exactly what's happening, and the defense should be absolutely perfect by Spirit. Lambo already, attempting to move on, as you should, but you would at least hope to get some damage, some chaos, some interruption. It's not even really going to happen in this game.
Well, I mean, we're gonna get maybe a depot or something, right? Like, we should be able to get at least something with these roaches and ravages. I do think at the bare minimum, we should be able to get some high ground vision with this Overlord, drop a couple of corrosive bombs. In a perfect world, you get a few SCVs that are repairing things, but obviously not quite the crazy good start that I think Lambo was hoping for. Spirit getting such an early scout on this just gives him the heads up, and we lost the Cyclone in the previous game, but I do not think that's going to happen this time around. And as soon as that Cyclone is out, this party of the Zerg is kind of over.
Yeah, exactly. So the reactor goes down, which is actually a pretty nice grab, even better than the supply depot. I mean, that's really going to be it. The Cyclone is the end-all defense, especially when you know that they're not going to be committing more. If suddenly even slowlings can really bother you, actually. They obviously don't really break the high ground very much, but if the Cyclone gets too adventurous. Command Center is going on a journey, by the way.
Yeah, it's flying into the other side of the map. We do get our second lock on, and we get the second kill on the Roach. Lambo's just making sure that this lingers on, right, for as long as possible. Because every second that this orbital is not landed, it's not building SCVs, the mineral line does not get saturated. That is very important, obviously, for Lambo, that he doesn't take any damage from this Reaper. Seems like he is pretty well set up to prevent that too. Not the start I think he was dreaming of, but perhaps not the worst case scenario either.
I suppose not the worst. It's kind of hard to imagine it. The Terran doesn't really get to clap back very quickly after this. It usually is just like, did I survive? Okay, great. And in this case, Spirit obviously did, and he has a 3rd CC finishing up, going on into his, just basically moving on into bio. He's not going to try and do any crazy attack or try to get immediate revenge, because that would actually turn probably into more of a problem than a success. But if he gets to the regular bio game, 3cc, I think he's going to be very happy with his position. And it's about whether or not Lambo can play really the perfect Zerg game. The cutting of the army for the drones and then making the army at the exact right time.
Yeah, I have seen games like this before where it's like, okay, this should be great for the Terran. We're getting ready for that inevitable push where the bio army is just going to do incredibly well because Zerg is trailing a bit in upgrades and doesn't quite have the same creep spread. But I'm not counting Lambo out yet. Like, he does still have an 8 drone advantage, which obviously is what he absolutely needs against the triple CC Terran, ideally even a bit more. I think there is some hope. Maybe a single run by, right, can really turn things upside down. You think of that run by he had against Bonnie on Ancient, where, you know, a few Zerglings just killed 20 SCVs because of a single misclick, perhaps, from Bonnie. So we do need to stop losing Overlords, though, Lambo, because the start obviously wasn't the absolute prettiest. Don't want to give this Cyclone even more value. Another Overlord will fall. At least link speed is done, so the Cyclone gets taken care of. But painful to take even more damage when you don't really have to anymore.
Yeah, supply block as well, stopping him from getting the, again, the perfect Zerg play. He also made 3 Spore Crawlers, so 3 drones and 225 minerals. That's also something that's not, it's not perfect, right? Like, there's nothing that actually, they can maneuver around and help against Liberators and Medivacs, yeah, sure, but it's not really something that is necessary. Perhaps a lot of the time after a Roach push, the Terran will go into Banshees because it's safe, and it's not necessarily the biggest distraction, subtraction, whatever, from your kind of streamlined build order. But in this case, Spirit really did have a lot of confidence following up with just a tank, which is still something that's a little weird as far as putting in your build order in the first 5 minutes, but then, yeah, right into the bio. So, yeah, you know, if the Spores get a Medivac, I'm going to eat my words. I'll be, like, very happy about that, but just seems like Lambo, you know, he's trying to claw back to get some control over the game, but also doesn't really know exactly when things are going to happen because, you know, it's not that much of a planned out game.
Going into 4 Ravages as well, I guess, just to get something out of these Roaches, because he doesn't want to invest into Roach speed. And Ravages are obviously always somewhat decent. Another Overlord does get found on the right side of the map, but at least Lambo gets a little bit of a heads up that there are 2 medevacs full of Marines heading towards his main base. I like the Overlord spread, by the way. This Zerg ZombieGrub, they're good at spreading those Overlords, aren't they?
Yeah. Yes, they're very good at it. And that's also why Terrans make it such a good attempt at killing them. This one also good.
Wow, those Marines have crazy range. I really thought that the thing would be safe.
Yeah. They snuck in the Brood War upgrade.
Do you remember this story between Strelok and, I think it's Revival? Strelok and Revival in China.
Whoa, no, not at all.
Okay, it's a great story. It's actually one of my favorite StarCraft stories, but I'll tell it to you after the game. If we get a game 5, I'll tell it in between game 4 and game 5.
All right, guys. Hope for the game 5. Hear the story.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
I think you will like this story.
I'm sure I will. We got a couple of drops going on. Actually, already adding in Marauders. So as you were pointing out, it's not that he really wanted to go more into Roaches. So if you don't want to play that game, then you do just go ahead and make your Roaches into Ravagers and call it even. Go into Ling Bailing for the most part. So the Marauders are kind of always tricky, but they do add a lot of health to your army, and they do make the Zerg second guess how they engage, because it's no longer just like 2 Banelings, 2 Banelings, 2 Banelings. But anyways, they don't have as many Marauders, obviously. Their production is not the same as Mass Marine. Just something to note about the composition. I don't think Spirit's any really worse for it. He seems totally content and even continuing to produce this exact composition. Actually, his current only mistake, going for +2 attack, but no armor.
And did lose a few more Marines, I think, than he would have liked to over here as well. But
yeah,
obviously doing alright. Lambo hoping for some miraculous corrosive balls. That is not going to happen. Lambo's kind of pulling the grass one all over again, though, right? I love these sim cities, by the way, from Spirit. Makes it so hard for Zerglings alone to really get anything done. At least Lambo took out the rocks. And this is a pretty terrifying Terran army. It's even more terrifying than it was on Grassvon because it has way more bio. Lambo is trying to pick up some reinforcements with Zerglings over here and actually grabs a tank immediately, so that's a good start. Wants to wait for those 2 upgrades, but it doesn't seem that Spirit is going to give him that time.
No, he's already hitting the hatchery, so Lambo decides to gun it, but he's already down in supply, starting the fight off of creep. The tanks are taken care of, but where are the rest of the Banelings? The Marines are here. 2-2 still isn't done for the Lings, and the Medivacs are going to come over and have the healer for every Marine. Lambo's supply telling the tale of this game. He was behind after the attack, really did not surprise Spirit at all, and it would have required a very good sequence of events to bring him back, which he really tried to force, but could not find.
Spirit just continues to be impressive when it comes to these European series, and it's just a matter of time before the man really brings it to line. Perhaps Home Story Cup next week, because this Spirit really is a force to be reckoned with, to bring back a Home Story Cup quote. His TVT is mighty fine at the moment. His TVC looks better than ever. TVP perhaps the weakest of the 3 matchups for him. I think he has plenty of practice in it. It was a strong series by Spirit where, yeah, he got surprised one time on Grass 1, but besides that, just played incredibly well. Clean, decisive.
Yeah, I mean, the Gressvon was not a fluke, that's too strong of a word, but Gressvon was one of those games where it was there's probably some simple changes that would have made it a equally strong Spirit game. He would have gotten to 4 or 5 base setup late game, and Lambo would have been frustrated, but Lambo can't choose the right time to strike. Like I said, he's been trying to really force the complications in this game with these run-bys. It's an excellent maneuver. It's exactly what he should be doing. Takes out a couple of tanks with nice corrosive biles. It's just too late, and he does acknowledge that.
It is a little too late, and that means that the Big Brain Bouts number 31 main event will go in favor of the man from Poland. A 3-1 victory for him over Lambo. That means Spirit gets the $150, Lambo still gets $50, and can now head out with Loof to a birthday party. I hope he has a great Friday regardless. Knowing Lambo, he'll get over it pretty quickly. You give that man a cheeky one on the Friday night, and he will forget about some of the guys with the gun that just caused some pain. That was the Big Brain Bout, ZombieGrub. How did we like it?
Oh, it was fantastic. I think the game's really delivered. I mean, the last series wasn't all the way to Game 5, but I still had a lot of fun thinking about the twists and turns of Game 3. Was fun. PvTs were excellent, and, you know, I always enjoy casting with you, Roddy.
That makes me very happy. All right, some of you guys saying, can we get that story anyways? Yes, I'm going to give you guys the shorter version of it. But basically, we were joking about the Marines and the Marines having a lot of range of the Overlord, right? And then ZombieGrub mentioned something about Marines from Boudoir. A long time ago, we played a tournament in IEM. I think it was Hangzhou, I think was the city, or Chengdu. I don't know which one it was anymore. But basically, we had Strelok, a Ukrainian Terran, playing on that purple map, the old school Wings of Liberty purple map, very famous. Shakura's Plateau. Playing a TVZ, he was the big underdog against the Korean Zerg Revival. They hosted a game, but we didn't really have proper tournament admins back then, so they just hosted some random game on the Chinese server. They loaded in, and after like 11 minutes, we casting, there's suddenly a pause, and Revival was like, there's something wrong with this game. And they're like, what do you mean? He's like, well, it just seems that the Marines shoot too far. And basically, 11 minutes into a game of the Intel Extreme Masters in China, it turned out that Strelok, his Marines, were absolutely cracked. They did like 4 more damage than they were supposed to, and they had 2 more range. So the Lynx got obliterated, the Mudas got obliterated, the Banelings got obliterated. And then the admins were like, oh no, what did you guys do? They hosted the wrong game. And then Revive was like, all right, so shall we rehost? And then Strelok is like, but why? I am playing really good. I am owning you. And we're looking at each other like, yeah, of course you're owning him. Like, your Marines are absolute god tier units, one-shotting everything. It's like, I don't think it's fair. It's a very good game for me. It's like, well, yes, but your Marines were 3 times better than they were supposed to. So after a little bit of back and forth, they went for the rematch, and let's just say Strelok got absolutely demolished by Revival. Didn't win a fight. Revival was mad. And Strelok couldn't quite get things going in the rematch with the normal Marines. But yeah, that's a bit of a classic.
Wow. I had no idea. It does remind me of the Spinecrawler bugs, though. It's like the same vein. But it's funny that he argued.
Yeah, he's like, it was a really good game for me. It was like, well, yes, Strelok, you're playing really well, but the Marines almost had the range of a Colossus. It's like, you know, that something is not quite adding up here. But yeah, that was that story, guys. We are done with the Big Brain Bouts. Obviously, Basilisk will tweet out a little scorecard of all the results of the games today. And I'm going to wrap it up because it's been a long day. Some of you guys were wondering about dinner. I don't think we really settled for dinner plans, but we're going to figure it out right now. This was a long day of StarCraft 2. Hopefully you guys had fun. I'll obviously be back tomorrow with some Platinum Heroes. It's the Community Cup. We'll talk about it tomorrow and we'll go into details. But starts around 6 p.m. Central European time, so noon on the East Coast, 9 a.m. on the West Coast. So a lot more StarCraft to look forward to. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We're getting 10 more subbies of Basilisk. Oh yeah, so one last thing I wanted to say before I let you say your final thoughts, ZombieGrub, is that we had a lot of subbies, resubbies, messages. I couldn't answer all of them, guys. We have a co-caster. Obviously, I'm going to give my attention and my love to ZombieGrub and the games. But I hope you guys know that even if you don't get a shout-out immediately, that your subs and resubs and little messages are always very appreciated. So thank you, guys. Much love. I had a blast today, ZombieGrub. I'm glad that you had fun as well. Is there any final thoughts that you'd like to share with all of us?
Yeah, you know, you can follow me, but you know who else is a fantastic member of the community and pulls everything together and pulls everyone together as well, literally to his house, because he actually has the magnetic pull of the sun. It is Roddy, and you guys should absolutely make sure to give you his your subs, as well as your primes. You know, I know some of you got them, okay? And we awkward StarCraft 2 streamers do not do a good job of shelling out for or selling out for our own streams, so it's the job of the co-caster to do it. And you guys should definitely use all of your subs, all of your little bitty boos, all your donations on Roddy. Right now. Do it.
That's very sweet of you, but that was not necessary. Guys, I also posted the links of ZombieGrub in her Twitter, because I do believe that you like Twitter slightly more than me. And obviously, guys, ZombieGrub streams very often on her own Twitch channel, so make sure that you give her a sub or a follow. If you, I think I'm one of your OG subs, ZG. Like,
yeah?
I've got a solid streak going, don't I?
Yeah, you do. I think Fear Dragon is literally one of my first.
Yeah, okay.
102 months.
It's hard to compete with Ravi, but I think I'm like at 70 months or something. So.
No, yeah, you're very up there. It's impressive. I'm also at 70-something months for you.
I know. All right. What else do we got? I think that's kind of it. What's next on your Twitch channel, ZombieGrub? How does your schedule look until you travel to Homestead Cup next Thursday?
That's true, actually. No, it's pretty wishy-washy. I'm not gonna lie. I was planning on doing something tonight, but obviously this went quite long. So probably do something tomorrow after I go to a cat cafe. I'm actually going to a cat cafe.
We have cat cafes in the Netherlands.
Yeah. You guys have one in Rotterdam, as well as some in like surrounding areas, but Rotterdam's the easiest to get to. So I'll be going to that. I have a reservation and everything. But tomorrow night, so like usual times for my streams are like 2 p.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern, so like 8 this time European. Yeah, that's usually when I stream, and I'll be doing some casting and some old school JRPG playing because I don't have a monitor, so playing StarCraft's hard. But that's what I'll be doing until I go to Homestead Cup.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I did not know we had a cat cafe. Do we have a Shiba Inu or an Akita cafe as well, like a dog cafe?
That might be a little more difficult.
I often see those in like Korea and Japan, and I'm so freaking jealous. Like, I'm allergic to cats, so if I would visit the cat cafe, I'd be like a sneezing Uzi, like choo 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 choo, that kind of thing. I'm on like a real life Pokemon or something. So we're not gonna do that, but I wish you all the fun. All right, guys, that is going to be it for us. We are hungry. We've had a very long day. Close the vote. Yes. I will settle those imaginary internet points of yours. Lambo won, right, guys? Somebody had a heart attack. They're like, no, Roddy, you a spirit. My freaking points. How dare you?